Today we're doing a cheese show. I love cheese, and there's never been a better time to eat it and buy great cheese than New York City these days. We're going to visit two of my favorite purveyors and take it from there. First stop, Murray's, and Murray's owner, Rob Kaufelt, who grew up in the grocery business. He was a natural, had a real sense for the trade, and has become a cheese evangelist. I've never met anyone more passionate, more dedicated, and more just crazy about cheese than him.
You know those metal grates and sidewalks that everybody has? Well, that one we didn't need because we come in over there. So we put a piece of glass on the sidewalk, and just coincidentally, you know, that's part of this particular cave. So you can stand up on the sidewalk on Bleecker Street, look down and see cheese aging. This is a real cave.
Looking at me, we're underground. What is this material? Just not stucco. What is this?
Yeah, it's a double layer of stone with insulation in between, and it is covered with stucco. It's whitewashed cement here on the interior. It's in this shape again. Now the shape is not just because it does look cool to have a vaulted ceiling. Actually serves a purpose because of the humidity is very high. It won't rain inside. In a square ice box, like we all use for our refrigerators.
Interesting. It has corners.
Yeah,
and
it tends to rain. Here it disperses and will evenly coat the walls. And you can see after 6 months, they're just beginning to get some nice, cool things growing on. About 7 or 8 years ago, no, it was longer than that, there really wasn't much going on in the way of specialty foods. There were a few American producers, the usual suspects. And it was clear that the market was changing. We were all interested, those of us in cheese were interested in changing it to the good stuff. Small producers, better quality. The distributors in New York really weren't satisfying our needs. The product didn't come, it wasn't that good when it got here. So we decided we'd have to go into the importing business ourselves. And that's when I really started to go on the road, in a serious basis, and eventually we got our own licenses to import. So that's what we do today. So I'll go here and there, all the cheese places, obviously, particularly Italy, Spain, France, England, Ireland, Switzerland, and the United States. Those would be the main cheese producing countries, and go visit the small producers and the farmers and the cheesemakers and pretend that I'm working. The best goat cheese in the world comes from the Loire Valley. Most of these here are Loire Valley cheeses, and we get them in, from the farms. This is a Saint-Maur.
Why do you like the French goat cheeses from the Loire Valley? What do you think it is? The goats, the temperatures, what they eat? They've been doing it?
I would have said that it was the goats, the animals, the milk, and all the rest once upon a time. Now I think that they just really have it together more. They've just been doing it for so long, they don't ever mess up. I don't think the milk's any better than what we have here, or that you'll see in some other areas. I just think that they've got their means of production, the art of it down so well that they've got a consistency that we can't beat. It's never bitter.
There's been an amazing explosion of interest in this. What have you found that interests you, or just talk to me a bit about that here in the States?
The stronger the mass market gets, it seems to me, the more box stores, the more chain stores, the more Kraft or Beatrice or Conagra do their thing and dominate our food culture, the more reaction there is to that for things like, for foods prepared in the traditional way, slow food, if you will. A colleague of ours calls it slow and local. Clearly that's a whole counter trend as people want to be connected to their product, the methods of production, the animals, the grazing, the farms, the milk in our case, or whatever else it is. One of the interesting things about all of these cheeses is, why did cheese get popular? I'm thinking about why, I think one of the things is that, it's sort of like the ultimate finger food. Another thing I think makes it popular is that all these cheeses, and there's thousands of them, and nobody knows all the cheeses. you know, every time we go visit someplace, we find new cheeses. They're all made out of milk, rennet, and salt. The rennet being the thing that's going in the milk to curdle the milk and turn it into the curds and whey. So the only difference, you know, one of the differences between this cheese and this cheese and this cheese is the recipe itself. It's really just like cooking.
Yeah.
And most of these recipes would be quite old, but you could come up with new ones, and they do.
While I was doing pre-production for Murray's, somebody suggested, you know, why don't we do a cheese pairing with beer? And I thought, beer? Beer and cheese? I drink wine and cheese. What's that with beer? And then I thought about it. You know, it kind of makes sense. They're both very similar products, and I don't know. I think it's going to work. So who else would I bring in but New York's one and only Garrett Oliver from the Brooklyn Brewery, who's going to pair beers and cheese with me. What do we have here?
This is a wheat beer, and this is traditional German-style wheat beer. And one thing you'll notice when you stick your nose in there, very distinctive aroma, kind of bananas, bubble gum, and cloves. I like to serve it with goat cheeses in particular. So here we have a cheese with a very thick paste, and we come to one of the first problems that a lot of wines have is with the mouth coating quality of cheese.
There's the fat that just coats your tongue, coats the palate.
Yeah. and a lot of wines just bounce right off. So one of the great things that that beer has going for it is scrubbing bubbles, carbonation. Then to break that cheese up and let it really work on your palate. So
That's a great cheese.
Great cheese. You look at how the beer has the ability to sort of
Yeah, you know,
break that up, refresh the palate.
I have to tell you, if it works in the mouth, it works. That's the bottom line for all this is that's wonderful.
Okay, well here we have brown ale.
So what are we pairing this with? Talk to me.
We're gonna pair this up with a sheep's milk cheese. You know, if you smell the cheese first, sheep's milk cheeses smell like sheep. They smell like wool. They have a lanolin character to them, and that's a kind of nutty flavor. It reminds you of sort of nuts, damp wool blankets, cornflakes, all sorts of sort of nutty things. And you can tie that together with the caramelized nutty flavor in brown ale, and that just works a treat. The thing to remember is that great beer is an affordable luxury. You can have it every day. It costs less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks.
Putting his beer salesman's hat on. Wait a minute.
No, it's
Heading a bit uptown, we're going to meet with Terrence Brennan. Terrence was one of the real pioneers with bringing cheese carts to the fore in restaurants. Back in the day, only a half a dozen or so restaurants really had serious cheese carts. And then Terrence and Peach Elaine began to offer a superb cheese cart on the Upper West Side and brought in Max McCallum, his cheese guru. Well, the rest is history. Now they've got Artisanal, a restaurant kind of devoted to cheese, a cheese store at Artisanal, and Ripening Caves for affinage on the west side. Let's pair some cheese and wine with Terrence and Max for yet another take on beverages and cheese.
Generally speaking, you want to kind of get a range of flavors. So you want a mild cheese and then kind of mid-flavored and then a full flavor. You want to think about texture. Soft, semi-firm, hard, creamy, gooey. Then you want to think about type of milk. Cows, sheep, and goats.
Nice. I'm going to try it with this Sauvignon Blanc. And one thing that's important about pairing cheese with wines is noting also the acidities. This cheese is fairly tart, acidic. This wine is fairly acidic, and that's probably going to make a pretty good match. It's not just the balance of the salt and sweet, but also the relative acidities help to make a pairing work pretty well.
I knew I was going to have to cook something with cheese, but I wasn't sure what, so I thought, heck, while I'm here, let me ask Terrence. So here's Terrence just winging something for you. Let's go.
All right, I'm going to make a signature dish of potato, bacon, and onion tart.
Yum.
It's just, I mean, what can you go wrong? Potato, bacon, cheese.
I say yum.
All right, so
Could
we're
be
going to start with
breakfast, could be lunch, could be a side dish for dinner.
Right.
Got some
All
whole
right,
butter in
so
the pan.
whole butter.
A little bit
We're
of
going to
onions.
sweat some onions here. And we're going to
throw 'em
add,
behind.
these are fingerling potatoes that are baked off. We're going to add those
And
in
then
there.
just kind of smash with a fork.
Yeah, and then just smash them. Very simple, very rustic, right? Some creme fraiche. Salt,
There we go.
Yeah,
So I
a
knew
little-
salt had to happen
a
soon.
little bit of garlic, some black pepper.
Mix it all up.
Mix all that up.
Basically everything was cooked.
Right.
Onions were sweated before.
Then I'm gonna add some Comté cheese.
Comté,
Aged
C-O-M-T-E.
Yep. And I use Parmesan almost like a seasoning agent. So sometimes if I do buy sauces, I'll just add, even though you're gonna really taste the Comté, the Parmesan is a backdrop to it. It just gives it that little je ne sais quoi to the flavor of the dish, right?
Just lapsing into
All
French.
right,
Just
yeah.
lapsing in there.
This just came out of the oven. It's phyllo dough. 3 layers cut, put in a cookie cutter. Oh, nice and
this
gooey,
looks sick.
cheesy.
This
That's
reminds
it.
you of that thing I had in the southern, that aligoté.
Yeah, oh yeah, Palm
you have
Aligo.
in
Palm
Auvergne?
Aligo. Palm Aligo, where they cut it.
They
They cut the
whip
potato
and whip
puree.
and whip
yeah,
and whip.
Oh
and
yeah, baby.
Some
Bacon.
beautifully rendered crisp,
Bacon.
triple smoked hickory,
All right. And then
organic
we're just gonna
bacon.
do some.
Chive for just there.
Yep.
It's in the
this
onion
is
family too.
Scallion actually.
Scallion, I meant scallion. I said chive, I meant scallion.
Little vinaigrette. They give me some
Which would be a
salt.
fantastic lunch, I'm thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
very
that was
light.
great lunch in the fall
So
or
then we
winter.
just add a little bit of mesclun greens.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
You know, and then you have a lunch. There we go.
I like it. I'm thinking red wine with this.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
definitely,
thinking.
Definitely.
Terrence, always great to have
Right,
you on.
nice to see
Thank
you
you.
again. Right,
Continued
that's it.
success.
Thank you,
And
thank you.
we're gonna meet you. We're not saying goodbye. We're meeting
Oh.
you over at
Oh, that's right. We're going to Cheesecapes.
the joint, the real place.
Yeah.
The
absolutely.
Cobbs.
Yeah, the Cobbs.
For affinage.
Affinage.
Woof.
These caves were custom built for Terence by a Frenchman who flew over and designed everything: temperature, humidity, certain mold spores that live in here. This is where cheese actually comes to perfect maturity. 4 different caves, 4 different temperatures, 4 totally different environments, and at the end, perfect cheese at the moment when you're supposed to eat it.
2 key components of maturing cheeses is temperature and humidity. So that's why we need to control that and watch it very carefully. And that's how you can bring a cheese from point A to point B. And what does affinage mean? It means maturing. So a cheese can develop to be a little more firmer, rich, and complex, or it can get, depending on type of cheese, it can get creamier and richer. It could get very kind of mild and soft to firmer and more tangy and full flavored.
As
So-
it matures, and then at some point it's at optimum desirability.
After ripeness,
Yeah,
and
okay.
then that's when we sell it.
Yeah, so this is new.
That's brand new. It's like a piece of clay.
Couple of weeks later,
That's 14 days.
and after that, the
And that
funky
next
guy?
one is 20 days.
And that's about ready to
that
be
one
eaten?
is ready right now.
And you got the ones wrapped in various leaves like we saw at the...
The leaf imparts something very special to it. In this case, we have these 2 that are wrapped in chestnut leaves, and the alkaloids in the leaf give the cheese a bitter flavor once it starts to mature, and the cheese becomes a little more runny.
This freaking thing. I mean, what does this look like? What does this look? I mean, to me, it looks like, guess number 1, a piece of coral reef. Guess number 2, a really funky, stale piece of bread that someone found under the sofa. A bowling ball from Mount Vesuvius? No, it's a hunk of cheese. What's it called?
Mimolette.
Look at it. It's the lunar landscape if you zoom in on it or something. This is wild. What a world. Cheese, man. I love this. You know, years ago, we'd travel to France every summer, worked as the chefs in New York City, and every summer's vacation would be going to 3-star restaurants and 2-star restaurants and restaurants nobody ever heard of. But, you know, you go to Europe to eat differently. You go to Europe to learn. You go to Europe for inspiration. Because really, through the 80s and early 90s, that's where the great cooking was being done. We were catching up, but we weren't there yet. And in one of several areas, it was obvious. One of them was bread. You just couldn't get great bread in America. Well, that's what we did for this show. I can't get this stuff where I live, so doorbell rings, box comes, I open it up. Check this out. Yeah. This is perfectly ripened cheeses, drop shipped to me. Look, this isn't that cute? Like a little bird's nest. I like that. My little birdie eggs. This is all stuff from Murray's. I didn't know what I was going to cook today, and I still don't. But I said, send me a couple of different things and let me play with them. So I did, and you know, literally this was packed yesterday morning, on a truck yesterday afternoon. These are these little icy things, you know, the little ice packs they go in a box, at my doorstep before 12 o'clock the next day. Gotta love it. Makes life a lot easier for all of us that don't live in New York all year round, or some of us don't live here anymore. It still comes to you, or it can come to you now. So let's play around with cheese today. Don't ask me what I'm doing yet. Still a work in progress, but here's some ingredients. There it is, roquefort. I'm not going to pronounce it. Le vue, la vue, la vue.
God, that's just stunning. That's beautiful. All right, we're going to do something with this cheese. Now, it's crazy. So Tamison Day-Lewis, Daniel Day-Lewis's sister, apparently another genius in the family, as if one wasn't enough, has this cookbook that she put together, and Murray's uses a lot of her recipes. So when I came home, I panicked, and I called Julie at Murray's, and I said, Julie, what can I do? You got to help me. I don't know what I'm going to do with cheese. She faxed me a couple of recipes from Tamison Day-Lewis, so nod to Tamison, thanks. This is where this recipe comes from. And this is some kind of a sesame and roquefort biscuit, it's called. Really tasty, really good. Let's proceed. I'm using a recipe right here. See, I've got right at the fax machine. All right. Blend the butter and the flour together. And I'm going to cream these just so they get, it's an equal amounts. And we're just going to blend this together until it resembles crumbs. And we're going to add the roquefort and just bliss it together. That's fine. Plonk this down right in the middle. Shape this. Press all the air out of it. I'm going to just get that and refrigerate it so it's firm enough to cut. Sometime later, it's firmed up. Doesn't take long. It's basically butter and cheese. So we're going to open it up. We're going to cut little discs about like that. Now I've got a mixture of white and black sesame seeds. Isn't that pretty? Isn't that special? Yep, we're getting fancy here. All right, last one's done. Clean up my cutting board. I've got a 350 oven, or 3 1/4 with a fan on, which is what I'm going to do, 3 1/4 with a convection fan on. And these aren't going to take long. We'll check them after 12 minutes or so, because there's not a whole lot to cook here. Let's catch you at the oven. Good? Good. Set a timer. Okay, it's actually been about 12 minutes. I let them stay in a little longer, but they're done now. Not a very good job. If I were a chef, I would yell. Whoever did these seeds, they all look different. Like this one has seeds on the outside. This one has almost no seeds on the one side. You know, Thomas Keller would fire a kid for this. Yeah, Ducasse, you're out of the kitchen. You're washing pots, peeling onions. Hey, who did this? They all look different. You get a dozen cookies here, and not one looks alike. Thank God I'm not in the business anymore. All right. You know, in France, they've got this wonderful little sandwich. You see it in cafes. Very simple. It can be really bad. It's ubiquitous. When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's but it's called a croque monsieur. It's a little sandwich. It's their version of a grilled cheese sandwich. Can be made a lot of different ways. What it shares in common is pain de mie, good white bread, butter, cheese, usually Gruyere, and sometimes it's topped with cheese. Sometimes the cheese is in the middle, smeared with butter. They do it usually under a broiler, cook it on both sides. And it's a wonderful little snack. It's often served with a little simple salad. A few places in New York do this. Petrosian's one, they've got a great version. And what it is we're going to mix together some of this very good roquefort. I'm going to mix it with a little bit of cream cheese because I never keep anything good enough the same. So let's get a little. We don't need a lot. I'm going to make one sandwich. We'll just get a little bit of this beautiful roquefort cheese. We've got some nice organic. Hey, where's the opening thing here, Harry? Good. Cream cheese. We're just going to mash them together with this fork. Just enough for one sandwich. Just make a schmear. This is my mixture of cream cheese and roquefort. I'm going to spread a little layer out. Don't want it too thick. Artisanal, Bayonne, smoked in a shed in the deep south of France by a little man with a goatee. Good. And comme ça. Now I'll meet you at the stove. And I've got a pan. I'm going to put a little oil in this pan and a little butter. Got some nice yellow, creamy butter there. Okay. And she goes. That's the color I wanted. Just like that. Oh, and do we have creamy goodness? Oh, baby, it's like sliding apart. One goes there. One goes there. You got the ham thing happening. I'm drooling. This is embarrassing, you know? But this is a classic. Oh, my God. Kononsky may be kicking me from the grave for dragging his name into this, but this is delicious. Grown-up grilled cheese.
All right, one of the other things they sent me down from Murray's when it was a little boule of Loire Valley goat cheese, little croton, whatever the hell they're called. That's it. You know, there's a salad for years. It's like cliche. I know it's ubiquitous. It's stupid. It was novel, you know, in 1979, but that was a while ago. He came from the West Coast, maybe? Maybe Alice Waters did this first. I don't know. But you get a goat cheese bowl, and you encrust it with the little ground walnuts, and you just saute it real easy, just room temperature. You don't want to cook it. Just boom, butter, brown the nuts, and you serve it with a salad. So warm goat cheese, encrusted nuts, serve the salad. Without any further ado, let's make these nuts a little smaller. All right, again, I just got these beets, and we're just going to peel them. They've been blanched, cooled, and we're just going to get that outer skin off. Be really delicate with this goat cheese. It's room temperature, and all I wanted to do is get it coated with the nuts, which is pretty simple because the goat cheese itself is kind of sticky. Good. I'll meet you at the stove. Oil in the pan. Touch of butter in there. Then she goes. All right, it's been about 2 minutes. I can see these nuts are beginning to take color. That's just all I wanted. See, you got that nice brown color around there. Perfect. Same thing on the other side. We'll wait till it's done. We'll bring this over, and then we'll make the salad. All right, I'm doing something I never do here. I'm going to be making pretty food here. I could cut this on a mantle. I just want to get nice cross sections. Isn't that pretty? Aren't beets beautiful? Just going to make a nice little rim. Again, I am so bad at making pretty food. When it comes to plate making competitions, I come in last. A little bit of salt, tiny bit of this fabulous walnut oil. Just a few drops, all it's going to take. Ooh, more than a few drops, but hey, you know. Little splash of sherry wine vinegar. Just a couple turns off a pepper mill. And we'll arrange these right here. There we go. Oh, that's beautiful. It's almost liquid. So we have this beautiful runny goat cheese encrusted with the walnuts, a little bit of arugula. You know, it's simple, but it works. And then this crunch of the beet underneath that I love with arugula. Simple. But don't let me forget, while I'm munching on this, let me get a couple of them on a plate. All right, and these are these little, you know, this is just a wonderful little, like a canopy. It's got a little color on the bottom side. These are very, very soft. When you pick them up, they almost feel like they're going to break because really it's 2/3. It's, you know, a third butter and a third cheese, so it's a lot of fat. But, this is a great recipe. I don't know who thought it up, but she did a great job with it. I mean, it's just really, this is a perfect little before a party, before a dinner, especially in the fall and winter. Weather's a little cold, very hearty kind of a amuse-bouche for a party. That's beautiful. That's great. I love that. Well, the world is all the richer, and New York is lucky to have Murray's down on Bleecker, and Terrence doing what he's doing with Artisanal. And I'll tell you, you know I'm in a ton of restaurants, and almost invariably, I'll be in a restaurant, I'll be at Ducasse, or I'll be at Per Se, or I'll be at Belmadonna, I'll be at whatever, and they're unwrapping cheese to get their cheese tray ready before service, a few hours. Yeah, Murray's. Sells a lot of those guys cheese. Terrence is getting in that business now and doing a great job. So, I mean, those cheeses that Murray's is ripening are ending up all over New York, in restaurants, in your kitchen, in my kitchen. They FedEx it over. Eat cheese, live longer? I don't know. Murray's got a funny T-shirt. Get Murray's T-shirts. He's great. Rob Kaufeld's great. Terrence, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. And I got to tell you, stay tuned for next season for the beer show, because this wine guy just got my head turned around with that. Beer and cheese was killer good, and beer and dinner actually works so much better than I thought. Who would have known, you know? You got to have somebody come along and show this to you. That's why you got to be out there. Eat well, eat often. I don't say that. Eat well often. And don't eat too much like me. See you next time.